Hello and welcome to Leviathan News. And we are here with OX Saitama, who was here yesterday to help us reply guys some newsworthy news. But now he's back. Garrett. Garrett's having some issues. Now he's back to talk about on-chain options. So welcome, Saitama.
Thanks for having me back.
Welcome.
So we wanted to have you on, and we were talking pre-show just about what's going on with on-chain options right now.
Yeah, so on-chain options. It's been going. What's been going on has been going on for for the past 2-3 years now. There's always that same constraint issue, which is the collateralization of options, which is the main constraint for options protocol. Right now we're trying to optimize the liquidity needs basically that options require, because there's so much fragmentation between every single parameter within an option, right? And I guess also the fact that retail needs to understand what options are, right? I feel like in TradFi there's this on-chain options have picked up. I mean, not on-chain, off-chain options have picked up in TradFi because the way they see it is like, okay, you want to be bullish, you just purchase a call, and this same vice versa with the put options, for example. But on chain, I feel like because of the liquidity constraints and the lack of volatility right now in the bear market, for example, options have been more difficult for retail to pick up. That's pretty much what we're facing throughout all the options protocols, not just us. And a lot of us, a lot of the protocols have different ways to go about it. So there's like Premia, there's Ribbon, there's us, Dopex, Lyra. So all these different protocols have all had this issue where you either have to hedge the liquidity providers, and that costs us a lot of money on the LP side. So now you're limited to the amount of yield you can get for the LPers, or you have these like us, for example, these order books where you can basically deposit liquidity and have fair option pricing without doing a price discovery. But the problem there is that you have these fragmented pools, and then you have limited amount of liquidity you can actually purchase on those options, right? So yeah, I'm happy to discuss whatever you guys think, whatever question you guys might have on the options, and maybe I can also cover what we're trying to do to basically confront these issues, right?
Yes. Go ahead, Advisor.
I wanted to say, I want to ask, what do you see as the main challenges, first of all, within the options game, especially when it comes to DeFi users? Because we get all kinds of DeFi users, and DeFi is so open in a way that it allows both very sophisticated users to do all kinds of stuff, and also to the very unsophisticated users as well. So where do you see DeFi options in general within that? And how exactly do you think that, not how, but what exactly are the challenges that DeFi protocols should be able to address in order to really grow and really letting us see a new spring of DeFi options protocols thriving?
Yeah, so I do think the learning curve is a bit steep, but it's possible. Personally, for example, let me give myself as an example, right? When I started crypto, when I started diving into crypto, I had no idea. I had no financial background. I'm not like these guys that went to economic school and university, all these things. I literally was just a degen on chain, and I was participating in Olympus, crazy APYs and Wonderland. I was having fun getting wrecked, right? But yeah, then I got into this ecosystem, which was Dopex, which I really like the ecosystem that we built at Dopex, very community focused, and I would say we're one of the most community focused protocols. I would say 9 out of 10 members at Dopex from the team members are part of we're part of the community. So I got on board from the community itself. So I was part of the community. I was just participating, doing threads and stuff like that. And actually, that's how I've one advice I would give for new users and stuff like that is like, when you start typing, just doing threads on stuff or just writing about stuff, you actually learn so much more than if you're just like reading, or I don't know, like just participating. Sometimes participating also like helps out, but understanding the fundamentals really comes when you deep dive into like the fundamental, like the back end of how things work, right? So I had no like I mentioned, I had no financial background, and the way I learned options was literally through DopeX, through doing threads on their products that they were launching. For example, the first product DopeX had launched, this was like I would say 2.5 years ago. So they were one of the first guys on Arbitrum, and they're the guys that got me on Arbitrum at the first place. So I transitioned over there. The community was strong, and I was like, hey, this looks pretty interesting. An option protocol that is picking up. There's a lot of option volume off chain. So let me dive a bit more into it, right? So the first product that DopeX had was the SSOVs, which is like another word for it, just vanilla options. So really simple, just options, the same way you could trade options on, for example, Robinhood, right? And then you basically start like, okay, what are options? And you start there. So an option is basically the right to purchase a certain asset at a specific time. So you take that concept and then you start digging into that concept. Then you have basically different time frames. Then you have strategies that can be done with options, right? And all these things. And one thing leads into another. So it's like a rabbit hole in a way, right? You keep reading, and that's how you basically familiarize yourself with the options, right? So basically my background was actually construction. So believe it or not, like completely nothing to do with finance or anything like that. So what I'm saying is that anybody can actually really learn options, right? Like it's not constrained to like really these sophisticated traders. But I still want to emphasize that there's like you can still understand it on a high level, and you can dig actually more and more into it, and go into a deeper level where you can actually position yourself the exact way you actually want, right? So for example, an option always, if an option is well priced, an option will always take the risk, or not the risk, but the chances of you being in the money. And when I say in the money, of you making money, basically in consideration to the price that you're paying. So for example, when you purchase an asset and you're long this asset, right? Because you own this asset, you're basically saying, okay, I own this asset, and it can go to infinity. So now you're basically exposing yourself to the price from where you purchased it to infinity, right? With options, you can actually say, I believe this price is going to be in 1 week will be this price exactly. And the more you precise the more you're precise on your belief of a certain price that will hit, the less it's going to cost, right? So for example, I believe ETH in 1 week will cost $2,100. So what are the chances of that happening? And what the formula used for that is the Black-Scholes formula, and the Black-Scholes formula will take the volatility of the asset throughout, for example, a year or a month, depending on how you set it up. And by taking that, by considering the volatility, what are the chances of that happening, right? And now you pay the premium to the seller of that option. And I don't want to maybe go too into it. Maybe I'm going a bit far-fetched, but on a high level, you're paying exactly the price that you of the chances of that happening, right? So this is a tool for traders that they can use this tool to basically make a precise bet, and that bet will cost exactly the chances of that happening, right? So instead of just owning an asset, or maybe taking a perpetual, for example, on GMX, and just longing, this would cost you less because you're making that precise bet instead, right? So on a high level, that's what the options are.
Yeah. So yeah, and Black-Scholes is good in most cases at getting like a good mathematical estimate, but it's still far from perfect. So like, where do you see the risk factors going in when the options are mispriced?
Yeah, so I mean, the Black-Scholes, like it's mostly used like in TradFi, is used a bit all over to price these European options. But the thing with on-chain is that you cannot. You can do price discovery like Lyra and other protocols. I don't want to. I'm just saying, like they're basically doing these price discoveries, but it's really hard to do price discovery when you don't have any volume, right? Like you need somebody to bid and like do bids and ask and squeeze those spreads to actually have the right pricing for those options, right? So what we do at Dopex is that you basically need to go fetch that actual pricing that's fair, like somewhere else where the volume actually happens, right? And unfortunately, right now, the place where the volume actually happens is like on Deribit, for example, or on Bybit, on these centralized exchanges, right? So what we do at Dopex is that we go back out the implied volatility, what market makers are willing to pay, and what they're willing to pay is usually the fair price, right? Because they're getting squeezed by other market makers, and they're basically finding the right price for a certain type of options, right? So that's the model that we're going for. And from that model, then you basically have then you got to consider that you have all these strikes and all these expiries, and that creates fragmentation. So through the SSOV product that I mentioned at the beginning, what we do is that we concentrate the strikes. So we, instead of giving infinity amounts of strikes every $25, we just give 4 strikes, and we're like, okay, these are the most popular, so they can just deposit in here, and we give the same pricing as Deribit, for example.
If we step back a bit from that, from diving too deep yet to what you guys do, what do you think in general are the challenges protocols have within this? Because when we were on before the talk, you mentioned liquidity. I think from your starting points here a few minutes ago, I think that also education is also kind of a barrier to entrance. Do you see any other main barriers or challenges that makes us still not have a versatile array or a lot of usage of DeFi options still?
Like I mentioned, like it's a learning curve for sure. We gotta get the users to learn and find a way. So that what we did is that we built an academy, so where users can just come in and basically learn through that academy. You can start with options and then go into the Greeks and all these things, right, into options. And except that, like after the learning curve, what happens is that, okay, how can we make these options efficient? Because right now it'll make more sense for you to just go on Deribit, for example, and just trade over there, right? It'll be less expensive. You don't have these gas constraints and all these things, right? And one of the reasons, by the way, that we didn't go on mainnet on Ethereum is because of the high computational things that happen on the contract level, and basically the gas fees would be crazy, right? So the idea is like, okay, let's go on Arbitrum L2. It'll be a lot less expensive, and from there users can trade, right? But now you still have the problem that on Deribit you basically have none of these constraints, right? You don't have you have these clearing houses that fill any type of options. You don't have any liquidity issues because you're dealing with market makers and stuff. On our end, we got to face those issues and say, how can we make the capital on-chain as efficient, for example, as a perpetual, right? GMX has picked up because it's really easy to understand, and you can just basically say, okay, I want to long this amount. The GLP solves a lot of issues where the users just take the other side, but they're gaining the trading fees, which covers whatever losses happen, right? So on our end, we got to say, okay, these are derivatives. And when I say derivatives, for the guys that don't know what derivatives are, it's just another way of saying that you're owning the asset, but that you don't need the asset itself. So it's just a price indicator that you'll need the asset whenever it comes, right? So for example, when the expiry comes and it's in the money and you owe $100, you got to make sure that $100 is there to pay off the right? So yeah, like for liquidity constraints, like a lot of protocols are doing their own thing, and they're trying to figure out how can we fix this issue for liquidity constraints. At Dopex, what we're trying to do is like we've tried a bunch of things, and we tried, for example, with the SSOVs, just vanilla options. And what we did with the SSOVs, like we took the collateral until the expiry. For example, the expiry is in 1 week, or if it's in a month, you can use the collateral within the expiry as long as it's placed in a neutral type of pool, right? So what we did is like, okay, for example, GMX has a single staking pool where you can deposit and it earns yield, right? So now you're, for example, long, you can basically purchase an option. And what we do on the back end is that we take the liquidity, for example, the GMX that's within the contract, and we deposit within the GMX pool. So now it's earning the GMX yield while you're selling an option at the same time, right? But that wasn't enough, right? So another thing we did, we just released 0-date options. So our 0-date options are actually spreads. So that means usually you need a 1 Ethereum to cover a 1 Ethereum call option, for example, right? So now instead of needing 1 Ethereum for 1 call option, what if we do spreads? And the spread would be like, okay, you purchase a call option at 1900 and you sell at 2000. So the max payoff, you know what it is, it's $100. So instead of let's say Ethereum is $2,000, instead of selling 1 call option, you can actually sell 20 call option, because now that $100 can cover that $2,000 Ethereum can cover 20 times with that $100 spread, right? So we did that, and still, like, even there, now you're basically concentrated liquidity and you're doing all these type of things, but yeah, like there is no clear pathway yet. But what we're gonna do in the future is probably gonna be this is basically our DopeX V2 product that we still haven't released anything about it, because I mean any news about it, because we're keeping it on the down low. But we're probably going to use Uni V3 liquidity and back out Uni V3 liquidity to do options through that, because Uni V3 liquidity, for those that understand Uni V3 liquidity, is they're basically call options, right? When you set 1 tick liquidity at a certain price, when it crosses that liquidity, you're essentially swapping the token, right? And when you're swapping the token, it's the same. It's like a synthetic call option in a way.
It's right? Like a covered call, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, when you're providing LP, yeah. So, like, can we talk about that? Can we talk about, like, I've seen a bunch of different protocols using different variations of, like, Uniswap V3 liquidity, and I guess, like, my interpretation of it is that there's a couple ways that you or there's a couple of trade-offs that you have to do, right? So in order to provide, like, a robust trading experience, the liquidity providers who are essentially, like, writing the options kind of have to take on some extra risks, right? So one of the things that I've seen is that the liquidity providers are locked into that range. So let's say you provide liquidity for ETH between 1,000 and 2,000, right?
Yeah.
When you go to provide your Uni V3 LP tokens to whatever platform you're using, you lose the ability to remove that LP until the option is complete, and so you essentially become, like, vol insensitive, which for market makers is a little bit weird, right? Because, like, market makers, like, live on being vol sensitive. It's their job, right?
Yeah.
The ability to adjust spreads, tighten ranges, widen ranges, and so I've not seen a great system for LPs to provide it. I mean, essentially, like, the vol that you have to collect, right, as a LP in this case, has to be nominally higher than you would in other platforms, which makes it less inefficient for the market makers.
Yeah, so I get your point there, and like, you can think of a Uni V3 like a dumb liquidity, right? Because they're basically providing like, if you look at Uniswap V3, like, you have depositors depositing at all ranges, right? Like, mostly concentrated most of the time, but you sometimes, like, you see full range and stuff like that, right? And if you think about it, it's like, this is like an order book, right? Like, but liquidity spread across all these ticks, and from these ticks, you're basically selling, like, covered call options. The only difference is that these are perpetual, right? You can take out your liquidity at any time, and stuff like that, right? So I think there's Panoptics that is actually doing something around that, and what they're providing is they're basically becoming a liquidity manager for V3, and what you can do is deposit your liquidity, your V3 positions on Panoptics, and what they'll do is be able allow the user, the buyers on the other side for the options, purchase a certain tick, and then they'll reallocate that liquidity on that tick to basically allow for the users to purchase that option, right? But the way they're going about it is that they're doing this new primitive, which is a perpetual options, right? So you can. It's the same as providing liquidity for the LPers. It's the same thing as providing liquidity normally, and for the buyers, they have this new primitive where they can have liquidity position at one tick, and from there close that position at any time, and et cetera, right? So that's a cool model, by the way. Like I really like what they're doing, and I'm excited for when they'll launch. But we're going a bit of a different route where you have, for example, that stuck liquidity where you have these expiries, right? Like the same way traditional options work. So you can think of it the same way, right? So it's the same type of model, just that now you're stuck with that liquidity for a week or a month. But since you're deriving that implied volatility from these centralized exchanges, for example, Deribit, you have the fair pricing that for example, a market maker usually would be okay with selling, right? Because this is implied volatility. Implied volatility means this is what market makers are willing to sell at, right? Or purchase, for example, right? So yeah, the model is like, I don't want to go into it because I'm not supposed to leak this, but the model is pretty like self-explanatory. We use the dumb liquidity of V3, where users just want to basically LP a certain range, and we use that range to provide option liquidity. And instead of them receiving fees on the volume that happens throughout that tick, for example, if it crosses that tick back and forth, you receive fees for that. Now you're instead receiving fees on maybe out the money options, right? That could be at the money, could be out the money. So the liquidity that's not being used, for example, on your V3 position, now can be used to sell actually call options, right? So this basically is a yield on top of what you're already receiving with your trading fees, because the unused liquidity is still going to be receiving the yield that you usually get by trading fees. We're only taking the liquidity out of the liquid, whatever the buyer wants to purchase, right? Mm-hmm. So that one tick gets taken out, and from there you're earning the premiums that you would receive depending on the Black-Scholes formula and the implied volatility. And the rest of the liquidity is still providing liquidity on the Uniswap. So it's like, in a way, it's basically the same yield, but with this extra yield of premium that you would get on top.
So what's got me like most excited about DopeX, I feel like, is not the angle that like retail users are going to educate themselves on options, but it seems like there would be utility for other protocols to build in sort of like kind of more complex financial products, not financial advice, on their protocols using some of these like options building blocks that you're putting together. And I feel like I've seen some examples of this. The names unfortunately elude me, but like, what are the kind of like business to business like opportunities that you're seeing coming from DopeX so far?
Yeah, so I think we do have like an interesting model that a lot of I would say a lot of DeFi is trying to solve, right? Like, which is a margin account in a way, right? Like I know a lot of protocols are trying to solve this problem, because the margin account basically allows you to, for example, to purchase one thing and then go on another protocol and do something else, and take the P&L of both positions and not liquidate you, for example, right? So through options, we actually found a way of doing that, and that was like the whole Atlantic narrative that we had, right? So we had this Atlantic narrative where we basically launched the beta version. It's still the real version is still not out yet, but the idea was like, what if we allow GMX to have this little checkbox where user can just click that checkbox, and on the back end they purchase these options to remove the liquidation factor, right? So for example, you could go on GMX and say, I want to 10x leverage, right? Now Ethereum is $1,000, 10x leverage, your liquidation is $900. So what if you purchase 10 put options at $905? So under $905, you're 10 long and you're 10 short. So now you're basically neutral, right? So since these options have an expiry, for example, a week expiry or a monthly expiry, you can take the collateral within that option input it in a neutral format, right? So that's what I mentioned with the SSOVs at the beginning. So what if we take the collateral within the option and deposit it inside GMX? Now you basically have a zero leverage position, but you're actually leveraged, right? So that 10x leverage position you had is now non-liquidable. So that's like a type of margin account you can do with this Atlantic product that we have, right? And this can be integrated with any type of any perpetual protocol. And the same can be done, for example, with the lending platform or CDPs, where you can just basically purchase a put option and be unliquidable because we provide the collateral within the option until the expiry, right? So yeah, it's like a new, I would say, narrative that we're trying to push, and this was the whole OpFi narrative that we pushed like a while ago. But because of the whole bear market situation and not only that, but also the complexity of it, I guess it hasn't picked up. But I'm sure this could be like a nice catalyst at one point that a lot of users could be interested in.
What kind of DAOs are you already in contact with that maybe if you can share or can, I'm not sure, that are like Garrett suggested, that are using like DOPEX as a building block or all kinds of infrastructure, the infrastructure that you guys are setting up there as tools to leverage their own protocols and benefit their own users?
Yeah, so like I keep mentioning GMX, right? GMX, we're working with them. Of course, GMX, like they're so big, it's hard for them to implement something like this because like it's a big change and it could like maybe the users might not be happy with it and stuff like that, right? But what they're doing is actually they're decentralized in their front end, and what we'll do on our side is that we'll partner with them to have some co-marketing, of course, and stuff like that. But we'll basically do a fork of their front end, and we'll have this built on our own front, I mean on their front end, but on our side, right? So this is something that will happen. We're also working with GNS to having this done. Then on the Polygon side, because we also launched on Polygon a while ago, I would say like a while ago, like a month ago, we'll also basically have that on now Quick Perps. So Quick Perps is like a Quick Swap, but now they're doing the Quick Perps part of it, and so we're partnered with them also to do that, and yeah, like also like some other stuff. Quick Swap is actually looking to having options on their platform, so we're talking for us to be the back end of their options. So that's another cool partnership that's might happen soon in the soon future.
How did you guys decide, by the way, to expand to Polygon? Was it like a natural decision? Was it because you know you were very much of like just like GMX in a way, you were a very early symbol of Arbitrum in a way. For early users on Arbitrum, there weren't that many dApps at the time, and definitely most Arbitrum users, I think, knew mostly about GMX, and at least on the side that I was watching back then. DOPEX was, you know, such a veteran player. How did you guys decide to that it's time for you guys to expand and to specifically choose Polygon as your next destination? What was that process like?
Yeah, so I guess just the Polygon team, the BizDev team are like really amazing. These guys are really convincing, and at the beginning we were like pretty focused on Arbitrum. That's where like we started, and that's like I feel like DOPEX was part of like the guys that made a lot of users flow into Arbitrum. I was one of them, and yeah, like I think we built like a really strong community at on Arbitrum. And the reason why we decided to go with Polygon was like just the guys over there were really nice. They even incentivized our product, which was like the Matic SSOVs. They presented us to all the partners, like for example Quick Swap, right? They got us that contact. They got us a bunch of contacts over there. It's pretty much like a more of a business decision, and also just the fact that that what they're building is pretty cool as well. Like with the whole zkEVM that might I think now they're transitioning into transforming the zkEVM into their main chain, right? And I think zkEVM hasn't picked up right now because like the fees were super expensive because of the way like I'm not super technical for these things, but I'm pretty sure like the way these zk rollups functions like as the volume picks up, they become less and less expensive, right? So I think it's a smart move for them to transition their zkEVM chain into their main chain, right? So as they scale, I think they'll pick up a lot of volume as well.
Definitely, and a good job by the Polygon team on getting you guys onboarded like that. Mm-hmm. What kind of updates can you share with us about what you guys are planning for the rest of the year, or maybe even further than that? Any exciting stuff that you're already able to share? Or I will even ask you about one small thing. I saw a few, maybe last week or something like that, that TZ posted like a Telegram bot where people will be able to use their to trade options using only the Telegram interface.
Yeah, that's actually pretty sick, because we actually partnered with Unibot. Is it Unibot? Yeah, I think it's Unibot. So TZ, like, he got in conversation with them, and they're working things out right now. But we're partnering with them, and we're having this Telegram type of a bot where you can just purchase scalps, you can purchase straddles, and zero-date options. Which is pretty cool, because now, like, you strip off all the interface and you can go on Telegram and trade GMX or trade DopeX, right? You can trade all these different type of tools with these tools through Telegram. So we might see a transition of DeFi into Telegram. Let's see what happens, right?
I think it's very important in onboarding the simple user, because like Garrett says, there's a huge opportunity, and pretty much probably the first opportunity of protocols like yourself with DAO to DAO connections and all kind of stuff, and DAOs leveraging on other DAOs products. But I definitely do think that in the long run, making option trading more accessible to more people will be a huge onboarding catalyst, at least the way I believe things will go down.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's like in a way, like, it's like you don't even need to download an app and stuff like that, right? It becomes a lot more simple when it's something that a lot of users, or even just like retail, whatever, is already using, and they can just say, okay, I onboard this wallet, and with this wallet I can trade whatever I want on something I'm already using, right? Without going through this protocol, this specific website, or et cetera, right? So yeah, like, I hope for DeFi to transition to something very, very simple, where anybody can use that straight out of their cell phone or whatever they want, right?
Yeah, I mean, DeFi is practically already on Telegram. So question in the comments: how much volume is DopeX auctions currently doing at the moment?
Volumes, it's hard to say, because we have so many different products, and depending on each product, I would say I can't tell you. Just go on the DopeX website. There's for every page we have like volumes for every product, different products that we have. For SSOVs, let me check fast. I'll give you maybe a little.
And also, any upcoming updates that you guys do want to share besides the Telegram bot?
Yeah, so we just launched the Scalps V2 version, and that what it allows you to do is, like, for the LPs, you can single stake whatever, either USDC or ETH or ARB for now. And when you single stake, you have no exposure to the trading to the trader's PNL. So basically, you're just earning yield on the single stake side. And for the traders, you can basically leverage up to 110x. And on very short-term options. So, for example, 1 minute to 240 minutes, and yeah, you can basically long or short ETH or ETH or ARB, and yeah, it's a cool product. It's very simple to use. It's like very user friendly, and it's just launched yesterday. So if anybody wants to use it, feel free to try it out.
Sounds cool.
For volumes, I would say in 24 hours is 50K, and open interest for, like, because we have weekly and monthly options on the RSS. This is specifically to the SSOVs. We have 750K in open interest.
Very cool.
Any
Right.
specific destinations that you have, like goals? Do you even think on that kind of stuff, or do you just like for now maintaining your vision of building for whatever audience there is, and just keep innovating and innovating, and only once V2 is out will you really start taking all these metrics into consideration?
Yeah, I mean, we the way we went about it was like, okay, let's throw shit at the wall, see what sticks. Right? We had a bunch of products. Like I would say, like we have at least 10 products, different products, and we're really the type of team that just like launches stuff as fast as we can, see the user's reaction, and test and prod, and from there we optimize, right? And I think the optimization part comes when Dopex V2 comes, because Dopex V2 is going to take all of our products, put it in one single liquidity pool, and from there users are going to be able to trade straddles, they're going to be able to trade options, they're going to be able to trade zero date options or scalps, right? Through this one pool, right? So it'll be like the most optimization we'll probably do is through that product, and I think it'll be one of our biggest catalysts to come.
Yeah, the next question is obviously when.
Yeah, wait.
I can't say I can't say much about that, but hopefully soon, right? Like I don't want to give a date. I can't give a date. Sorry, guys.
Just say soon, TM.
Yeah, soon,
Yeah,
exactly.
Classic answer.
So John in the comments is asking what happens to our Dopex.
Yeah, RDPX is still in the roadmap, so this will probably be our next thing. So we're in audit right now, John, by the way. So we're doing an audit. It's soon almost completed, and after that we're doing an extra audit just to make sure everything's fine. And from there, it's launch time. So it's go time.
Who does the audits, by the way?
Yeah, Open Zeppelin right now, and the second one we're still talking through a few other auditors.
Quite a big name to me.
That's great to hear. Glad to see things are coming along with Dopex. Saitama, thanks for coming on. And yeah, we're going to have you back on once we have more to talk about Dopex.
Yeah, for sure. Happy to come on anytime, and thanks for having me, guys. Pretty appreciate it. And let's do an options panel soon. I'm excited for that too.
Yeah, exactly. We all are.
I think it will be quite an interesting talk. We should definitely set it up quickly.
Awesome, guys. Thank you.
What's the over-under on how quickly?
Let's see. Because it's quite a lot of people to coordinate into one time slot. But I think people will be kind of excited and willing to participate. I think it can be a great panel, actually.
Very cool. Yeah. Thank you so much, Saitama. Always a pleasure to talk.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Pleasure.
Bye.
Good luck.